Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 2022 Fiction 101 from the Morgantown Public Library System. Today, we've got a big group, and we are discussing sci-fi. So, Shelby, do you want to give us a quick overview of what makes a book sci-fi or science fiction?
So I imagine whatever definition I give, I'm going to be told why it's wrong at some point. But
there are definitely a lot of opinions in this Zoom room today.
But I think it's a book that examines the impact of like actual or imagined science on society. And I think the emphasis on imagining the impact on society or by individuals is the important part.
I think that sounds like about maybe the least amount we could all agree on. So, so I think sci-fi. Okay, so one of our goals for Fiction 101, right, is to talk about new or forthcoming books that we're excited about, but also to really kind of like revisit the stacks of the backlist books that are sitting there waiting for new people to discover them. And I think sci-fi might be the real treasure trove of the genres that we've examined so far on this one. Oh, we didn't draw straws for order, but let's hear from one of our new voices first. Lexi, do you want to talk about what are some of your favorite sci-fi books, or maybe some recent reads or things you're looking forward to?
Sure, and I completely agree that sci-fi often gets left out of academia and discussions about novels and books that we enjoy, and it's underrated as a genre, I think. So one of my favorite sci-fi books is called Future House of the Living God, and it's by Louise Erdrich, who's a Native American author. And this book was written in 2017, but it still is super relatable to our current standing, because it is a story about a pandemic, like an end of times pandemic, that includes some biological warfare, where basically a reversal of human evolution occurs. And I see sci-fi as a really imaginative genre that often houses subversive ideas. And what I mean by that is that it often challenges things that we're familiar with. And it often embodies like a collective cultural fears and taboos. And in Future House of the Living God, those fears and taboos are obviously the pandemic that's going on. And when I read it, I just found it like eerily relatable to our present condition. And the biological warfare, I think, is one of the least, well, not often used in like as a sci-fi trope.
Right. That's what I was thinking as you were talking about that.
Not, but I would still consider it sci-fi. Maybe it's more like speculative fiction, but yeah, if anyone else wants to chime in on that, they can.
Right. I mean, our first thought for most people who don't read sci-fi is like, oh, it's going to be about spaceships and aliens, right? And that it's much deeper and much broader than that.
Yeah, definitely.
Summer, what's one of your favorite sort of backlist type of titles?
Well, I picked a few. I didn't really prepare like why I picked them.
That's okay.
I picked a few of like my favorites. I think, well, I picked a graphic novel. It's Trillium by Jeff Lemire.
Mm-hmm.
That one's a lot of fun. It's I don't know how to describe it. It takes place across two different timelines, and it's the way it's put together is really cool. Like one timeline is facing up and the other one's upside down, and they have like similar stuff going on. I don't I didn't prepare exactly what exactly happens in the book, but another one is Seven Eves by Neil Stevenson. It's like a big, long, very technical one, but it's a lot of fun. It's about something crashing into the moon and it explodes. And I like a lot of different kinds of I like ones that are really technical and very heavy. And it's like, you feel like you got a degree because you read a book this big.
Yeah.
But, and like the guy knows what he's talking about, but it's also similar to it feels similar to like what would have happened in real life if this had happened, and you can see a lot of parallels between like people not taking it seriously, or it becomes very political, and it's like it was similar to like what was that movie that they just put on Netflix, Don't Look Up, or whatever.
Don't Look Up.
Yeah, it's a lot like that, except better. I also picked one that's pretty different. It's a Polish sci-fi. It's called the Futurological Congress. It's by Stanislaw Lem, and it was written in 1971. It's like a Black humor science fiction, and it kind of it's really like, I don't want to use the word trippy, but it's like there's like this Congress where they decide like science stuff that's going on, and they end up getting drugged and like through the drinking water, and like it's a lot of questioning about like what reality really is and like what's actually happening in the book, and it's a lot of fun. And I think I picked one more. The Dawn series by Octavia Butler. I mean, she's really good in general, but that series it's pretty intense, but that one's a lot of fun too. It's like it's an alien one. It's definitely a space alien one, but I don't know. It's pretty dark. It's fun.
But Octavia Butler, anything by her goes to the top of the list as
of course. I had to pick her.
Yeah. It's less science fiction. It's time travel, but like there's a graphic novel version of Kindred that's available now too, which is just a fantastic too. Sorry, that's my aside. Really science fiction is not so much my world. But that was really phenomenal. Not translation, sort of a translation from adaptation. That's the word.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out yet, but I'd like to.
Yeah, I think it's on Hoopla as well. Let's hear from the Johns. Which John goes first? John Parker, what have you got for us for sci-fi? Yeah, you're muted. I can't unmute you. I have no power.
I'm the old fogey here, so I'm awful at reading new sci-fi because there's just so much sci-fi. So I wanted to come in here and be the voice for the old classics. And Summer, thank you for bringing up Stanislaw Lem, because the Western, sci-fi is so dominated by Western authors that sometimes it's just nice to get an Eastern, in this case, a Russian voice in. But, I think we'd be remiss to talk about sci-fi at all without bringing up the origin of it. And what better time than Women's History Month? Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, and that's to go back to the point about sci-fi being or not being about space. Yeah. Frankenstein has absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, almost none of my favorite sci-fi books do. The thing I like about sci-fi, similar to what Lexi said, is that they're books, really just media in general, that ask questions about the world and filter them through a fantastic lens. other than Dune, which basically resembles a fantasy more than a sci-fi, my favorite sci-fi books are, Flowers for Algernon, which is far more emotional than one would expect out of reading your traditional sci-fi fare. All the dystopian novels, Clockwork Orange, 1984, We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, Brave
That
New
was great
World.
too. Sorry.
No, I love any book that asks questions and makes me think, and I find these the easiest to discuss with other people because they're so readily accessible and relatable ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we are, maybe sci-fi needs its like romance moment right now, where romance readers and writers are like, claiming their space in that we're more than you think, and we are exactly who we want to be. And maybe sci-fi needs that same treatment right now. And I've seen a lot of that out there in author talking world, especially as it relates to authors of color and representation in sci-fi. We could do a whole separate one on Afrofuturism and a couple of our, John and I share some favorite authors, I think, in that world too. So there's a lot to explore there as well. But let's make sure we get to everybody's top picks. So John Fox, what are your top sharing ones? Please unmute yourself.
Oh, unlike the other John, I can unmute myself, so. Well, oh my gosh, everyone started talking about things. I got super excited. So I just wanted to add to the Jeff Lemire suggestion. He has a series called Descender. It's about a little robot boy, and he faces, a little bit of discrimination because he's a robot, but he has feelings. He's designed to be a companion, and there's a war going on between robots that seem to have some sort of sentience and humans. And the robot boy is kind of seen as a messiah-like figure to the robots. So everyone kind of wants him, and he just wants to live the life that he wants to have. Afrofuturism, I was thinking of Black Panther with Ta-Nehisi Coates' recent take on that, which we are getting in at the library soon. So, you can check it out, physical copy or on Hoopla. It's very fun. The two recommendations I was originally going to go with are the 100,000 Kingdoms series by N.K. Jemisin. Anything that you read by her is going to be amazing, but I went through that series, and the first one, it was just like each one presents itself as telling all three of the series just have like some unique twist that makes it interesting as the characters grow, and it deals with becoming like demigods and politics, and it's just a really interesting, it's ultimately human in the end. And finally, the series that I'm very excited about, it's called Gideon the Ninth. So I'm nodding because I've recommended this to practically everyone in this call, I'm sure. It's so good. The tagline was lesbian necromancers explore a haunted castle in space, and I picked it up. And honestly, I went into it with low expectations. I was like, this is just going to be like an airport read, but it is one of the best books I've ever read. It has a sequel, Harold the Ninth, which is already out, and it's going to have 3 out of 4 books. And the 3rd book is coming out in September, and I'm so excited about it. So that's all from me. So
That's awesome. it's always great to have things that we're, looking forward to on our lists. Shelby, do you have any either personal favorites you want to share, or maybe what patrons have been asking for in our last couple minutes?
So I wrote down a few titles that I've seen go out a lot recently. John, you'll be happy to know that Gideon the Ninth is on that list. I've seen it go out so much recently. Dune, with the movie coming out, that's been going out a lot. And then Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, I see that one go out a lot. For me personally, okay, I don't know if this counts. Is Artemis Fowl science fiction?
Yes.
Yes.
I will defend it. Yes.
Absolutely.
So not to be the one that's like, this is the kid's book that I love, but I love Artemis Fowl.
I do too.
It's so good and funny.
Yeah, the whole series is just fantastic. So absolutely, it goes on the list for sure, and counts as a backlist because it's got to be a good 15, I don't know, 12, 13 years old by this point. Artemis could be a grown-up now. Oh, that's scary. But yeah, absolutely. There's some other good kids sci-fi coming out. That's a good segue. I've seen more of it lately. There's classic, it just fell out of my head. Wrinkle in Time. But also, gosh, there was a new one, The Emperor at the Gate, I listened to on Hoopla not too long ago. That is it's a very, I don't say this to diminish it way, but it's a very Ready Player One kind of a story, but more for middle grade, but also based on Ethiopian history and folklore and traditions, which just made it very different and interesting. But it's a quest, and like many of our favorite stories, it's about the people and the friendships and that they form throughout the story that makes it, and the rest of it is adds into it. But yeah, so I think we could take a lot of offshoots on our sci-fi world. We haven't touched really at all about the huge amount of books coming out right now, that's climate fiction, related climate fiction, which I guess there's lots of different subsets of dystopian futures, but that's been huge in publishing the last couple of years, and really, especially young adult, over the last year, we've seen a lot of those. We've got just 2 minutes left. Any last thoughts? Anything anybody really wants to throw on the table to make sure someone knows about it?
Do androids dream of electric sheep? It is so good, and I thought I should throw in another classic for John.
Great. There's so many authors. There's so many authors that I didn't mention. Asimov, Heinlein, Philip K. Dick, all of them. And those are just the old white guys.
Philip K. Dick's one of my favorites too.
Going back to the mention of Afrofuturism, Nedi Okorafor is a great one, and she was the author that kind of introduced me to sci-fi, probably 5 years ago when I was a freshman in college. So I would say that she is a great starting point if you are new to the sci-fi genre, or new to the Afrofuturism subgenre of sci-fi.
We have most of her books across the board, either through Overdrive as ebooks or audiobooks. There's some on Hoopla, and we have quite a few in print and in the library as well. Yeah, she's fantastic. I agree.
He's also written for the Green Lantern series, I believe. It's called Far Sector, and that's a really cool, interesting take on it.
All right. Well, we have a great display going up this month, featuring some of these titles that Shelby's working on, and we'll include some of them in the comments when this gets posted to Facebook. So thanks for joining us. And we'll be back in April for our take on genre bending books as a happy April Fool's Day. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Happy reading, and we'll see you soon.